Hey, and welcome back. And time to dive into part one, which is where I answer the question, why does having a strong core matter? In chapter one, it's costing us. My goal here is to paint as clear a picture as I can of the challenge that we all face as leaders. And that challenge is this. We can be so focused on what's going on around us. We want to manage and control all the external things. And so we're focused on the market, and we're focused on the share price, and we're focused on our businesses and our organizations and our competitors and our talent pipeline and our schools. And in the process, we fail to see that ultimately it's paying attention to what's going on the inside that keeps us resilient to burnout, that keeps us purposeful and enables us to be engaging and transformational in the way we lead. This chapter honestly has one of my favorite stories in the entire book. Favorite on the one hand, but also sobering at the same time. It's the story I tell of my walk in the woods with my wife and our boys, and we stumble across this tree that has been uprooted, and it's become, for me, this amazing and essential metaphor for what I see happening with so many leaders today, and indeed a lot of what I've seen in my own life as well. The reason it's one of my favorite stories is that if I could only tell one story to sum up why it's important to have a strong core, it would be this one. Because it shows that it's so important for you and me as leaders to have deep internal roots and a strong foundation if we are to remain resilient to burnout and all the other effects of the stresses and pressures we face. Interestingly, the importance of having a strong foundation shows up in other areas of life too, right? Think about it. Those of you who are old enough, you'll remember that in 1992, America was hit by Hurricane Andrew, which caused somewhere in the region of $30 billion worth of damage. And as far as I know, to date, it's still the second most costly hurricane in US history after Hurricane Katrina, which was about 13 years later. Anyway, believe it or not, within hours, the damage produced by Hurricane Andrew was equivalent to 20 years worth of garbage. Yes, 20 years worth. I struggle to get my head around that. But here's why this is relevant. There was a truth revealed by the storm, and it was this, that the buildings built according to the strictest code, they withstood the destructive force of the hurricane. Now, hey, I know people will argue that there would have been a lot of damage still, and no doubt, but the damage and destruction could have been limited if the buildings had been built right and if the buildings had a stronger foundation. Now, as leaders, here's the message for you and me. It matters what you're like on the inside. It matters what your leadership foundation is built on. On the outside, so many leaders look like they're strong and they're resilient, and yet they don't have deep roots or a strong internal foundation. And that has sobering and serious implications for our lives, which I describe in this chapter. This lack of depth and internal strength affects our organizations. It affects our health. It affects our finances. It affects our communities. It affects our relationships. It's affecting our world. And that's a message that I really want all leaders to understand right from the start. One important skill that I believe all leaders need to develop is to know how to surface and address the inner conflicts you're experiencing before you reach burnout and before you're gripped by stress and fear and anxiety. And if you don't know how to do this, then what will happen is you'll end up doing what many people do. Turn to alcohol, turn to drugs, overworking, and other temporary fixes to address the stress and anxiety that you feel. And that's exactly what led me to the realization that I share a few times in the book When life squeezes you, when challenges and difficulties come your way, when the Hurricane Katrinas and Andrews of this world descend on you, what you're like on the inside will come out. And I can say this with absolute confidence because I've seen its effect in my own life. I share the story in this chapter about one of the darkest periods in my life and the depression and the suicidal thoughts that it led to. And it was important for me to do this because I really want you to know that this isn't just an academic exercise for me. This is serious. I also wanted you to know that the strategies and the tools that I go on to describe in the book are ones that I've seen make a difference in many lives, including my own. As leaders, we all face inner conflicts. We all face our own internal Hurricane Andrew. And the question that each one of us has to answer is this: when the hurricane comes and goes, will I be found standing? Seriously, think about it. Will you be found standing? In Leading from Your Core, I'm keen to help leaders build well. Too many lives are being hurt, too many communities being damaged, too many organizations devastated, and too many people living far below their potential because we're not building our leadership foundations well. Now, there's way more to be said on why having a strong core matters, but we'll have to continue that in our next episode. I really look forward to you joining me